Call to order Town of Prescott Valley Study Session, August 3rd, 2023. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Leyva. Councilmember Greer.
Here.
Councilmember Dickinson.
Here.
Councilmember Hepperly.
Here.
Councilmember Schumacher.
Present.
Vice Mayor Hunt. Mayor Palguda.
Here.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Item up to a Dolly Parton Imagination Library presentation.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, I would like to introduce Mr. Noel De Souza, who is a retired educator and administrator and currently serves the Imagination Library of the Prescott area as board president. Noel is also active in Prescott Frontier Rotary and the Frontier Rotary Charitable Fund, as well as the Prescott Caborca Sister City Committee member. And also, along with Noel, is Martha Baden, who is also a member of the Read On Prescott Steering Committee, a board member for the Imagination Library of the Prescott area, and recently retired from Prescott Public Library after a 30-year career in libraries. So
Welcome,
that's
guys.
the introduction.
Thank you so much for having us today. And Fatima, do I pull? Is it up there? I do have some handouts as well. Is it possible to pass those around?
Okay. There we go.
All right. Thank you so much, Mayor and Town Council members, for having us here today. We are thrilled to be here, and especially in the presence, I know many of you are early literacy champions here, so thank you for having us. We know your time is precious, so we will try to limit our presentation to 15 minutes and get started. If at any time you all have questions, please stop and interrupt us. We'll be happy to answer them. Here are a few things we're going to try and get covered today. What is the Dolly Parton Imagination Library? What is ILPA, our acronym for Imagination Library of the Prescott area? Why are early literacy programs like DPIL and ILPA important to child development? ILPA's current enrollment status, how ILPA is currently funded, what are ILPA's projections for growth, and how you can support ILPA. So let's start with what is a Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. It's been in the news a lot in recent years, so you may already be aware of it. But the basis of the program is actually very simple, and that's getting books into the homes of children birth to age 5. It's a book gifting program, meaning that it's not a subscription. Families sign up and it's free. They're mailed monthly so that by the time a child is 5, by their 5th birthday, they can have a library of 60 books. It is managed and funded locally, administrated by Dolly Parton Imagination Library, but managed locally by 501c3 affiliates. And it is now a worldwide organization. There are over 2.3 million children across the world enrolled in the program, and 1 in 10 children in the United States are registered. It began in 1995, and I think its inspiration is such a sweet story. Dolly Parton's father could not read, and she, of course, was a reader and inspired by the books she read. In fact, the very first book that all children in the program receive is The Little Engine That Could, which has great significance. Her other inspiration for this is that she remembers, coming from an impoverished family, what it felt like to be identified as such. And that is why there are no restrictions, no qualifications for the program except where you live, and that has to do with the affiliate, and your age. So how does Dolly Parton's Imagination Library work? Dolly Parton's Imagination Library and the local affiliate have distinct responsibilities. DPIL, they maintain a massive database of registered children, so there's no cost to the local affiliate or any management of that. They subscribe to the National Change of Address system, so it's easy to manage. They select the books, they purchase the books, they mail the books, and they provide technical support. So it's pretty simple on the affiliate's end. The local affiliate registers children in their zip codes, the identified zip code areas, birth to 5. They raise funds to fund the effort, and the cost is approximately $2.20 a month, about $25 a year to get 12 books to a child's home. And then we market the program locally and raise awareness. You can see here's some sample books that go out. Dolly Parton has engineered a wonderful relationship with Penguin House, which is a huge publishing company, over 250 imprints. So there's a great variety of books. They're all chosen by early childhood literacy experts and educators, and they really are chosen for the suitability for age. For instance, the babies get board books, and as the children grow, there's more length to the books and complexity of ideas. And also just for the appeal to children and families. The books that are in paperback come with reading tips on the flyleaf so that parents who maybe aren't as comfortable reading or reading aloud are empowered to become their child's first reading teacher. If you're interested in how books are selected, Dolly Parton's Imagination Library has a wonderful website, and on there it gives a lot of information about the selection of books as well as what will be delivered in coming months. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about why Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. There are a lot of early literacy efforts out there, but there are several reasons that Read On Prescott, the organization that sort of spearheaded the beginning of this, chose this one. One is that it does target all children. There's no requirement except your age and where you live. There's a huge body of research regarding the importance of home libraries, the presence of books in the home, reading aloud to children. It also seemed to us that it was a wonderful effort to empower families to become their child's first teachers and to enlist their help in growing readers. And then finally, it's cost effective. There's no way you could purchase 12 books in a year for $25 without Dolly Parton's help. So being equitable, and that goes back to Dolly's story about not wanting to be identified as impoverished, the research regarding home libraries, partnering with families, and the efficiency and low cost for the affiliate. Sorry, forgot to click. Okay, you can also see the annual reports on the Dolly Parton's Imagination Library website. So one of the jobs of Read On Prescott and librarians and educators across the country is really to recognize the importance of early literacy. The job of helping kids succeed in school really starts when they're born. The minute they're born. Gaps in vocabulary appear as early as 18 months in children. In 2019, 45 million Americans were functionally illiterate. 50% of Americans could not read at an 8th grade level, and 65% of America's 4th graders didn't read at a proficient level. Exposure to language, literacy, and talk experiences are key in acquiring pre-reading, writing, listening, and speaking skills. In a study of nearly 100,000 U.S. school children, access to printed materials was the key variable in affecting reading acquisition. In the U.S., more than 60% of low-income families have no children's books in their home. Books for kids, and this is my favorite as a librarian, contain 50% more words than television, spoken conversation, or radio. So there's that exposure to vocabulary and experience. And the number of books in a children's home correlates significantly with higher reading scores for children. By age 3, roughly 85% of the brain is developed. And this makes it the perfect time, those early years, to expose children to language through high quality, developmentally appropriate books. And this brings us to the correlation between early literacy and school success, something else that's supported by a lot of research. At 3 to 4 years, vocabulary, attention, and general knowledge are predictors of school success. At age 5, 90% of a child's brain is formed. Third grade reading is a big predictor of high school graduation, and it's even been correlated to things like incarceration. We know that language, reading skills, and writing skills develop at the same time, and they are intimately linked. Early literacy development is a continuous development process that begins at birth. And early literacy skills develop in real-life settings through positive interactions with literacy materials and people. And that's a fancy way of saying on the lap of a parent who's reading a book to them. By the time children are 3 and 4 years old, their vocabulary, attention, and general knowledge are predictors for third and fourth grade reading comprehension. And all of this is substantiated on the Dolly Parton Imagination Library website. There's a long list of studies that they've documented that tie to all of the things I've just said. Also on the Read On Arizona website. Okay, and just quickly to tell you about our beginnings, we were modeled after, and when I say our ILPA's beginnings, we were modeled after the Verde Valley Imagination Library. ILPA began as PALE, Prescott Area Imagination Library, in 2019. And then in early 2022, we expanded, but it was originally a collaborative arrangement. It was between the 3 Prescott Rotary Clubs and Friends of the Prescott Public Library, as well as some of the Read On Prescott Steering Committee members who were avid early literacy supporters. For example, Billy Orr, who was a council member in Prescott and was a big champion of this program. It was identified as an important initiative by Read On Prescott for all the reasons that I've just cited. It seemed like a wonderful program, and we believe is to get books into the hands of children. At the time it was formed, we served just 3 zip codes, the 3 Prescott zip codes. But from the very earliest day, the intention was to expand, and our Rotary partners in Prescott made it clear that's what they wanted as well. And so a new nonprofit was formed, and Noel's going to tell you a little bit about the growth of ILPA going forward.
Good afternoon again, and just for clarification, that was Martha Baden, and I'm Noel D'Souza. We modeled our program after the Verde Valley Imagination Library, which has been in existence for about 7 or 8 years now. And I became very enthused about it, having been an elementary school teacher, when I saw a presentation made at all 3 of the Rotary clubs. It took me several years to get things started, but eventually I got the Rotary clubs to agree to apply for grants collaboratively in support of it. Initially, As Martha had indicated, it was administered by the Friends of the Prescott Public Library. It was in Prescott zip codes only, 7 or 8 zip codes in Prescott. In March of 2022, we were sending out 700 books per month, the cost of about $1,500 per month, and the $12,000 a year that the Rotary clubs gave to the program, plus some other private donations, were able to fund it. In April of 2022, we established ourselves as a separate 501c3 nonprofit charity when we decided to expand to the rest of Yavapai County. And by the rest, I mean because there is a Verde Valley program. There also is a program over in Baghdad. But we cover now about 23 zip codes. In July of this year, we were giving out 1,960 books, and I believe that the latest numbers that I got just a couple days ago indicate that we surpassed the 2,000 per month book distribution. Right now, it's costing us about $4,300 a month, and it is continuing to escalate. And our budget this year for books alone is going to be just under $45,000. Our current board, 12 members, we meet monthly. We have some volunteers assisting with data entry and fundraising planning. Our areas of focus, as was explained earlier, has to do with fundraising, marketing, and outreach for the program. And by that, I mean getting children to register, getting their families to register. We have collaboration with the local hospital and also with Head Start, and that is essentially how we get the word out. This chart has some old numbers on it, and by old, I mean they're about 3 weeks old, because this is a very fluid situation for us, the way that this program has been growing. This indicates, in a general sense, the total number of children ages 0 to 5 in the 23 zip codes that we serve. Dolly Parton tells us, and this is what the second column illustrates, that our max will be at about 60% of the 0 to 5 population. This has been their experience in the 27 or 28 years that they've been in existence. The additional numbers that are shown there indicate what our status was 3-4 weeks ago when we got our July numbers from Dolly Parton. Again, I'll have some updated numbers for you. For example, in Prescott, we had 16 additional registrations. You will notice the very last column indicates that we are at 92% of what we expect to reach in the city of Prescott, but that's because we've been in the city of Prescott for almost 5 years. In Prescott Valley, right now we're at about 42%, but when you look at the registration numbers that I'm looking at most recently, there are 16 new registrations from Prescott, 13 new from Chino Valley. The whole rest of the county that we serve, the numbers are under 10. Prescott Valley had 47 additional registrations just this month. An explanation of our projections: we've grown about 261% since we announced back in April that we were going to serve the rest of Yavapai County. I already indicated what our book budget would be. We're a nonprofit corporation, therefore we have other expenses associated with being a nonprofit, such as insurance, such publications, and other marketing things. Those numbers that are in that slide indicate where we expect to be as we grow to our maximum, which should be sometime in 2026, when our book budget is going to be just over $100,000. So you can see that we are looking currently for support from a variety of different sources. Our support to date, the Rotary clubs continue to support at $12,000 a year, and will again this year. We've gotten $15,000 from the Arizona Community Foundation twice. We received funding from them. Read on Arizona, which is associated with the state of Arizona, was able to get us about $57,000 in leftover COVID relief funds. that's a plus for us because it means that we're in very good shape probably until the beginning to the middle of next year. But that's only a one-time thing. So we have to go out and beat the bushes, and we are getting private donations as well. Our financial support currently, again, a $12,000 grant from the Rotary Clubs. We had submitted a grant to the Arizona Community Foundation this year for $20,000. We got $5,000. We submitted to the United Way for $30,000. We got $5,000. Private donations, $5,000. Corporate sponsors, we're looking to go to about $10,000. We do plan to do a fundraising event at some point next year. And we are also looking for the municipalities that we serve to support us as well. And we hope that that is a discussion that you will have and that we can have back and forth around that issue. Our outreach, the Prescott Public Library, the Yavapai Library Network, librarians promote this within preschools, kindergarten, childcare centers. The YRMC Family Resource Center promotes signups of newborns. Children are identified and recruited at family events, Head Start, school district fairs, and things like that. We do outreach presentations, very similar to what we're doing here today, to a number of different organizations. We've got several lined up with Kiwanis clubs, Lions clubs, and so forth, and are looking for support from those types of organizations. And we do outreach to register children in the coming year in all areas that we cover. This is simply a bar graph that illustrates our growth since 2019 to the present day. That says we currently serve over 1,700. No, actually, we are currently serving just over 2,000 children. And as we increase, we are increasing our outreach. We expect a continued high rate of growth as new families learn about and utilize this very unique program. Okay. How can you support ILPA? How can anyone support ILPA? How can organizations, businesses support ILPA in the community? You can promote it. Let people know about it. Become a volunteer. Right now, our need for volunteers is nil, but we do expect to have a need in the future. Support it financially. Read to the little one in your life. I'm thinking, I know I have grandchildren, of course, they're in their 30s. But I'm soon going to be a great granddad, I was told by my grandson a couple months ago. And spread the word about early literacy, please. Again, this is a unique program. Okay. These last couple of slides, these are a piece of the handouts that we give out. I think that Martha included those, yes, in the things that she handed out, and they are actually updated over what is contained here. And that is actually incorrect. Martha, the website, we just recently established our own website where there's a link from the Prescott Public Library website at the current time, but we established our own website, which is?
It's very simple. It's ilpabooks.org.
Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Council, any questions or comments? Vice Mayor?
I just want to thank you for bringing up Billy Orr's name because she was a real princess in this area, and to know that she was a part of this really warms my heart. So thank you for doing that.
Well, I think it's very important. I mean, if it wouldn't have been for Billy, I don't think we would have gotten the program started because she was in my Rotary Club, and she also was part of Read On Arizona and Read On Prescott and part of the Friends of the Public Library. And she basically was the one who recruited the Friends to be willing to administer for us for the first 3 years of the program's existence. Yes.
Councilwoman?
I just want to say you guys are doing such a fantastic job with outreach. I know just since the spring, I've seen you at the Kindergarten Readiness Fair at Yavapai College. You were at the backpack event last week. Prescott Valley Kiwanis, we got our presentation. The chamber mixer a couple weeks ago. So it seems like everywhere I go, there you are. So that definitely explains your increase in numbers. You guys are doing amazing work, and keep it up. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Next up, item 2B, 2024 Prescott Valley candidate election packet. Welcome, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. I am here once again to talk to you about elections that's coming up. Basically, also inform the public about our upcoming election in 2024. And specifically to announce the availability of candidate packets and give a brief overview of what it takes to run for council. Some of the slides I'm going to skip because we actually have a video we want to show you that's going to be very repetitive. So just to inform the public on why we have elections every 2 years is because we have 7 council members and we stagger the terms. All 7 council members serve 4-year terms, and so that not all of the terms expired at the same time, we stagger the terms, and that's why we have elections every 2 years. If you recall, last election was last year in 2022, where we elected our mayor and 2 council members. On this upcoming 2024 election, we are going to elect 4 town council members to 4-year terms. The upcoming election next year, which is literally a year away from today with 3 days, will take place on August 6th, and if needed, we're going to have a runoff election on November 5th. So here's some information on the qualifications and what it takes to become a candidate. Still the same standard. You got to be a qualified elector, 18 years of age or older, and must be a resident of Prescott Valley. So that has not changed. Also, the main question that everybody wants to know is how many signatures do I need to run for council? For this election, the minimum is 591. It was actually more than last year. So 591 and no more than 1,181. The official filing period will be between March and April. We're still going to use the Equal portal to accept those signature petitions. So try to narrow down the process into 5 easy steps, and I'm just going to highlight the main things. But like I said, you're going to watch a video. First step would be to pick up your candidate packet, and I do ask that if citizens are interested in running for office, to please make an appointment in my office, just because there's important information we need to go over. Our forms are available online, but it's best that you meet with the clerk just to go over the information. Step 2, I cannot stress this enough. You have to file your statement of interest before collecting signatures, because any signatures collected will be invalid at the time of your official filing. And this is why you want to go back to step 1, make an appointment with the clerk. Step 3, you're ready then to collect signatures. We went over the minimum and the maximum and the Equal platform. If you recall, the Equal platform are pre-verified signatures, so you can still use that portal and you will know that they're qualified electors of Prescott Valley. You can still collect a combination also of like paper signatures if you want to go door to door, that will still be acceptable. Step 4 would be to wait then for the filing period, where you will become an official candidate once you file the forms that you see on your screen, no later than April 8th by 5 p.m. The last step would be to open up a campaign finance committee. If as a candidate you're planning to advertise yourself, have signs, spend money on your campaign, you have to open a campaign finance committee, and we'll go over that during our meeting. Something that we are doing for the second, third year in a row is the candidate open house. It's just a time to, if you can't come during regular business hours, we have that extra day where citizens can come and meet just to go over the candidate packet. Our next upcoming event will be Tuesday, August 22nd in the library Crystal Room from 5 to 7. Depending on the availability of the Crystal Room, we may have another one in October and then another one before the end of the year. Any questions?
Council, any questions? We just
Okay.
watched the video.
All right, well, let's go watch the video. Before we play the video, I do want to give credit to Mark, Kent, and Latoya for doing the voice reproduction or the recording, and Marissa did the slides. She did a great job, you'll see. I just did the content.
Running as a candidate for town council. During the August 6, 2024 primary election, 4 council seats will need to be filled. These positions hold 4-year terms. This tutorial will show you the process and requirements when running as a candidate for town council in the 2024 election. To qualify as a candidate for town council, you must first meet the following requirements. 1. Be a qualified elector at the time of filing your nomination paperwork. 2. Be at least 18 years of age or over. 3. Be a resident in the town of Prescott Valley for at least 1 year preceding the election. 4. Cannot hold any other public office that in any way conflicts with the office of council member. 5. Concerning the question of candidate qualifications, it should be noted that a person convicted of a felony cannot serve as a council member until they have been restored their civil rights. Once you have verified you meet all the candidate qualifications and still have a desire to serve the community, a town council candidate packet must be obtained. To obtain your town council candidate packet, you can email or make an appointment with the town clerk's office or visit one of our open houses offered throughout the year. Please look at our social media pages and the town's website for more information on these upcoming events. Keep in mind that pulling a packet will not make you an official candidate. After reviewing the information in your packet, and once you're ready to collect signatures, you will be required to submit a statement of interest prior to collecting your first signature. Signatures collected prior to the filing of the statement of interest form are invalid and may be subject to challenge pursuant to Arizona law. Now you are ready to circulate your nonpartisan nomination petition and collect signatures. You must collect a minimum of 591 and no more than 1,181 petition signatures for your name to be placed on the 2024 primary election ballot. There are 2 methods to collect these signatures. You can collect signatures electronically that are pre-verified through the eQual platform, or you may collect signatures on paper. When circulating hard copy petitions, please make sure the information on the paper forms matches the information on the electronic forms. For candidates who do not wish to use the eQual system, the existing hard copy nomination petition process can still be used as an alternate option. Additional forms are included in the candidate packet to help you run your campaign. A candidate for town council must also comply with all state campaign finance laws. For more details on elections, campaign finance, and advertising requirements, visit www.prescottavalley-az.gov/384/election-information. During the official filing period, the following forms must be filed with the town clerk's office for the official filing of your candidacy. All of these forms must be properly executed and submitted at the same time your nomination petitions are filed. The time period for filing candidate packets and nomination petitions is from March 10, 2024 to no later than 5:00 p.m. on Monday, April 8, 2024. Please schedule an appointment with the Prescott Valley Town Clerk's office to submit these filings. After the filing period, your name will be included in the official ballot and you will become an official candidate for the August 6, 2024 Town Council election. This information is being provided to you to assist you in preparing your candidate papers. Please take time to thoroughly review your candidate packet. Keep in mind, it is your responsibility as a candidate to research and comply with any requirement prescribed by election law. Thank you for watching this video, and we encourage you to become involved in our community.
I just have one last comment. This video is like the second video ever done on elections. The other one is, we got the idea from Chandler. So,
Nice.
any questions?
Anything else for Fatima? I don't know, you could have just walked up and just hit play and just sat back down
Right.
and done.
Could have done that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
Moving on, item 2C, options for expenditure limitations vote 2024. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. So that time has come again. I do not have a fun video, unfortunately, but the time to discuss home rule has come up again. As you all know, every 4 years, we bring a ballot measure before the voters to allow the town to exceed the constitutional expenditure limitation that the state has mandated. This started back in 1980. The voters of Arizona brought home rule into existence to where voter or communities would have to vote on exceeding the constitutional expenditure limitation. There's 2 options to do this, and this year we're going to talk about the other option as well as the home rule option. So we have the home rule option, which we would take back to the voters every 4 years, and then there's also the permanent base adjustment. So with permanent base adjustment, it's a little bit different to where we would still take it to the voters. However, once it's approved, it adjusts the town's it's a permanent base adjustment. So it alters our base, which is $380,000 right now, that's adjusted for inflation and population growth each year. And it changes that base to one that would be larger. We don't know what that exactly would be at this point, probably around 2 million, something around that would give us close to a $200 million expenditure limitation. If we did not do either one of these options, we would be restricted to the constitutional limit, which would significantly impact our ability to provide services to the residents. Both of these options go before the voters, and we would not have to continue to do the permanent base every year. Each year it would just be adjusted by the inflationary amount of CPI as well as the population growth in our area. So it wouldn't be something we'd need to take back to the voters unless there came a time where we needed to adjust that base again. And we have gone through 11 successful home rule processes where the voters have approved the home rule, which extends it for the 4-year period. Both of these options go to the Auditor General for review prior to the election, and we would propose in either case that we go to the primary election with this option. If either option failed, you actually cannot bring another option before the voters for a 2-year period. And we would be subject to the state-imposed limitation. So what that translates to in dollars is a significant drop in our available resources. So on the first column, it shows our fiscal year. These are the last 4 fiscal years, including the current budget year, and what our state-imposed expenditure limitation would have been based on the original base. And what our actual approved budget was. So as you can see, we would have to cut services significantly if we were to go back to the state constitutional limit on expenditures. Either of these options does not raise taxes. It does not increase our revenues. All it does is it allows the town to actually spend funds that we have brought in through various sales tax, intergovernmental revenues, and other sources. The reason why it's so different in our case is because we're a community that wasn't really established prior to, 1978 is when we became established. This came around in 1980. At that point, the town had very little services, and we didn't have a water or wastewater system. We didn't have very many roads to maintain. There wasn't a police department. So there's a lot of services that we've added over the years, which are not taken into consideration with the constitutional state limitation. So we have 3 options. The first option would be to go to the permanent base adjustment, which in the spring we would start that process. We're not required to have public hearings with the permanent base adjustment, but as a matter of practice, we think it would be a good idea to still offer those public hearings. And then it would go before a ballot measure in the primary election. And then going forward each year, it would just be adjusted based upon the new base limit and the adjusted formulas. The second option is to continue with the home rule, which every 4 years would require us to renew and take that back to the voters for approval. And so that would continue indefinitely until we, at such a time, we chose to go to the permanent base route or just continue to go through home rule. The third option is a modified combination timeline where we could go forward with the home rule process next year in 2024. And then 2 years into that 4-year home rule period, we could put forth a permanent base adjustment option to the voters. And if that passed, then that would take over at that point. With any of these options, it's always up to the voters. So there's a potential of them not being approved no matter which option you go with. Our voters have seen the home rule option for, like I said, 11 periods now where we've gone through that process. And the last election, we had very successful yes turnout for the approval of that. And with that, are there any questions or comments or anything I can clarify for you all?
Katie, correct me if I'm wrong. I think last time it went to the vote, it was about 3-1 in favor.
It was
Do you recall?
pretty close, yeah, I believe so. I think it was close to 78%.
78%.
In favor.
All right. I'm all for just having it go. I mean, it's going to the voters no matter what, so there's no sense waiting. Just send it, let them vote. In the past, it's been 11 in a row. It's probably going to be 12, I'm assuming. So that's my thought. Just get it done with, make it a permanent and move on. But I'm open to hear from council.
Katie, about how much is it to put it on to put home rule on the ballot every 4 years?
It's pretty costly. I mean, we do it in conjunction with the council election, so we're doing one publicity pamphlet, but the staff time and everything else, it does take a significant amount of time because we have to do 5-year projections in relation to that, as well as all the disclosures and notes and election costs. So I'd say for that portion, it's hard to split it out, but Fatima, what would you say about? Correct.
So there's several things we pay for. We pay for postage, we pay for the length or the size of the packet per page, depends on how long it is, how many pro and con arguments we receive, for translating it. I would say like $50,000.
Plus staff time.
Yeah.
And how long has this permanent base been around?
It's been an option for quite some time. There's not, I believe the most recent town that went to it was Marana, but there's been a few other cities that have gone to it as well. But it's been an option, as there's a few other options. There's like emergency override option, as well as a one-time override option that are also allowed through the state statute.
And if it doesn't pass in 2024, then what happens? If the permanent doesn't pass?
We would not be able to take another one back to voters for 2 years. So it would be something we would have to work with the state to do an emergency override type election to allow us to continue to operate. I believe that's happened to one other community in the past, but they weren't switching to permanent base. It was just for their regular home rule, I believe. And they had to override so they could continue to operate.
And our budget then would be at the previous year?
No, if we did not have a successful override, then it would be limited to the state constitutional limit. But that's a risk that we face either way, whether it's the home rule or permanent base adjustment. If either one didn't pass, we would be in the same boat.
Councilman?
So a question on the state imposed expenditure limit. So we would be at the 43,631,000 is what it looks like, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Does everybody have the same amount for every town and city?
No, it's based on whatever, you have your base adjustment or base amount. So ours, because we were so new at that time, was 380,000. There's other cities and municipalities where their base was much higher to start with because they had already been established for a certain amount of time. For most of them, since services have been added since 1980 in most areas, going by the state imposed expenditure limit, I don't know of any cities that actually go by the original state limit.
On anything with the economy or where we're at today, it's based on past amounts, correct?
They take that past amount as the base calculation, and they do look at your population growth and CPI, but it doesn't consider those additional services, which is where it falls short.
And the cost of what it does to do business today, even compared to 2 years ago. So, okay, thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely.
Councilwoman?
So on option 3, if the permanent base vote fails, would we just fall back to home rule?
Correct,
So that's the benefit of doing it that way.
correct.
Because then, because otherwise, either one you pick, if it fails this time around, we have to fall to the state constitution number.
Correct. So, yeah, we're at a point now because our home rule is expiring. So we have to either renew the home rule or go to permanent base unless we want to fall back to that limit.
And home rule has passed for the last 11 seasons. So
Correct.
it's,
44 years, right? Is that what we're looking at since the beginning?
It's
so
been
that,
close,
so
yep.
that one's the safer option. So you get that one in place and then in 2 years, if you want to try the permanent base. Gotcha. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Councilwoman?
Thank you, Katie, for your presentation. If the permanent base adjustment passes, how long, when, and does this take effect? And are we prepared to shift gears right away? I mean, is it all set up, or how does that
Yes. So if the-
transition? And when does it transition?
So if the permanent base is approved in the fall of 2024, it wouldn't be effective until our 25-26 budget year. So it, basically, we have time to get everything in place, but it's really just the allowance of letting us exceed that state constitutional limit. It really doesn't change much on the back end side. As far as implementing it or anything like that. It's the main focus would be the election piece, and then we would have, almost 9 months to prepare for that and know what our limit would be and everything else.
So we would still be in the home rule up for about 9 months after the election if the permanent base adjustment is passed,
Correct. It would be the following fiscal year that it would take effect.
would take effect.
Anything else from Ms. Pell? So I think just moving forward, we'll put verbiage into the packet, and we'll have a motion at the next, or whatever the next council meeting that we need to have this decided, and we'll just vote on it from there.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on, item 2D, incentive program, economic development. Mr. Chamberlain, welcome, sir. Looking sharp.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. First I wanted to say, as of July 1, I am your new Economic Development Administrator, so happy to be here. We have a job posting for an Economic Development Specialist, so we are definitely growing that division and our initiatives there. What we've been doing recently is partnering with our local utility companies, APS, Unisource, and Sparklight to help us fund a strategic plan and roadmap. So we've gotten 7 proposals in, and we're, kind of reviewing those with our partners, APS, Unisource, and Sparklight, and we will be selecting one soon, and that will basically give us a specific roadmap to follow and what we should be doing. They do like a target sector analysis, tell us kind of what we should be after, what other communities have done at our size in terms of economic development and job creation. So very exciting stuff. You guys will love it when it starts to come down the pipe. I wanted to give you a very brief view of kind of where we sit, because I have not done that in a while, but the new minimum wage for Arizona is $13.85 an hour. Median household income is $63,253. Prescott Valley's civilian labor force, that's daytime employment, is 23,759. And population is roughly 49,736. So we are growing. Here is our labor statistics. I just wanted you guys to basically see who provides the most jobs in what category. And our largest is trade, transportation, public utilities at like 20%. So that's by far the biggest. So the two items I wanted to talk to you guys about today is our incentive program. So we have two incentive programs that we have been tirelessly working on. And the first one is a job creation incentive program. So with this one, we are really trying to encourage industrial manufacturing companies to come to Prescott Valley. So we want to offer them an incentive to be able to come and definitely set up shop here and choose Prescott Valley over any other communities in the area. If they were to, what it would basically mean is that they could apply to get their construction sales tax just on construction of the project potentially rebated back to them. So we do have requirements of what they would have to use that money for. You don't just get a blank check, if you will, or just a certain amount of money to spend it on whatever. We have specifics that you would kind of have to fall into to be able to use it. But basically the three main things for this incentive program is for any qualifying businesses that generate a minimum of $24,000 of paid construction TPT tax. They must create at least 10 new permanent non-construction jobs, not the building of the, but permanent jobs after the construction is done, with wages that equal an amount within 10% of the median household income at the time of applying, and does not include residential projects. And it does include any retail or non-retail business as long as they meet those specific parameters that we've aligned. Part of the council's strategic plan is prosperous community. And this is really, we did that 10% of the median household income to try to encourage, if they definitely want this incentive program and payout, is to create those jobs that are, you know, a certain amount. We don't want to just have 10 jobs that are paying, you know, bare minimum. We definitely want to increase that, help increase that, you know, town-wide. So the things they can use the rebated money back for would be employee relocation expense allowance. If it is a business or something off of State Route 69 or any main arterial roadways, is beautification. So if it is an old establishment, if they're doing an expansion, it's got to be a new, you know, not just gaining 10 employees, but actually expanding the business and building on student internship training opportunities, job training, innovative sustainable development, and public infrastructure costs. So they would definitely have to show us any of the receipts for the construction and then basically provide proof to us that those funds were being allocated for specifically this reason. So they can split it up amongst that, but as long as the money is, you know, being spent for these items here. This is an example just of the, you know, the application that they would have to fill out. What we are requiring of them is that they fill out an application of interest before they do so, and then during the process, they can definitely submit any of those receipts for construction costs. And then once the project is completed, they'll be able to fill out the application and potentially get that incentive. The second one we were designing and looking at is a supermarket incentive. We all know how desperately, you know, we need a new supermarket, grocery store. So this is to help that initiative. We can only do so much talking before we, try to give them some kind of incentive to select Prescott Valley for their new endeavor. So with this one, it could be rebated in an amount equal to the town construction. So same thing, but there's no minimum on this one. It is just tied to construction sales tax. So it's not any retail tax, after the fact. The supermarket is defined as offering a wide variety of food, beverages, and may include household products. So really, we are trying to be specific in this incentive so that it's only offered to, specific businesses that we're trying to capture. And eligible if development is construction within the opportunity areas shown on map Exhibit A. So we have identified these areas as underserved for grocery. The reason they're kind of outlined a little different in each spot is because it does need to fall within town limits. But we like to call this the food desert. So basically, any sites that are off of, a main major state route and have high traffic counts, that will most likely be something that a supermarket or a grocery store is looking at. So if they land within any of the, any of these sites within those highlighted areas, then they would have a potential to apply for that incentive program. And what they can use that rebate for would be public infrastructure costs, training programs for employees, beautification and site improvements, and again, innovative sustainable development. That is all I have for you. If you have any questions for me or.
Vice Mayor.
So, Cutter, congratulations on your
Thank
new
you.
job title. So, I have a question on the job creation incentive, the industrial one. So, this is presumably R&D and manufacturing and everything.
Mhm.
So, creates at least 10 new permanent non-construction jobs. So presumably this would be business that's coming from outside of the area relocating here. And it would probably have more like 15 to 20 jobs because they would have people that aren't making enough money to qualify for this incentive. So they'd have some admin and other jobs that don't qualify. So it'd be more than 10 people total employees.
They just have they have to have a minimum of 10 new positions that they are bringing, even if it is an expansion of an existing business in town. If they were expanding and they said, hey, look, we have to hire another 20 people, staff, as long as 10 of those positions are getting paid within 10% of the median household income whenever they do apply.
But they can be relocating from another state and bring 10 people with them that qualify, and they could still get this, right?
As long as they're, meeting these requirements, because it is 2 new positions to Prescott Valley, and they are paying within.
So where you say with wages that equal an amount within 10% of the median household income at the time of applying, what would that wage be like right now today?
Right now, I think I did the math, and don't quote me on it, I'm not working in finance, but I believe it was the high 50s, low 60s, in that range that you could, because it says within 10%, so. Am I right, Katie?
Okay, so again, they could bring people, they would have much more than 10 employees because they'd have people that are probably in the 25.
That's
to
just the
30.
minimum, yes, ma'am.
Got it. Okay, good. And then, so employee relocation expense of allowance. So those would be the people, say they're coming from California because we want to steal businesses
Yep.
from California.
Yep.
And they're bringing 10 of their high-end people with them that make at least 60,000. And we're paying to help them move their furniture or whatever, their household. That's what that would be.
Yeah, basically, so they would have to generate a minimum of the 24,000, but whatever they take back, as long as they're showing proof that the money was allocated to specifically that, yes, they could use that.
Rent payments, we're not
No.
paying down payment, we're not doing anything like that. Good.
And they have to, I believe in the resolution, it does state that they have to fall within town limits of Prescott Valley. So you can't move to the area, if that makes sense. You can't move out to Chino Valley and then be able, so if they were relocating to the area within Prescott Valley, then that could be an option for them.
Innovative sustainable development, what's an example of that?
Wind, solar, things like that.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then,
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, also water. So that we had specifically talked about low impact development concepts and ideas. So if they came forth with some creative ways to either on the power side of things or water side, they would be able to qualify.
okay. Then on supermarket incentives, where it says supermarket is defined as offering a wide variety of food and beverages and it may include household products. So this could be like a Target too,
Yes.
or it could be,
Yeah, that's why we actually put that in there specifically so that it didn't exclude any just specific grocery stores. Yes, if it was a Target, if it was a Walmart, or grocery, food and beverage.
I know it could be a big array of them,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
but could it be like that Five Below Zero one that's smaller? Could it be Aldi's?
I believe Aldi would fall in that because it is a variety of food and beverages. And it just says, and may include household products. So they don't necessarily require that it has to be household products.
Are you going to put a square footage or something to?
Of the incentive, I don't believe we've identified specifically square footage. I think we're we want to encourage them specifically to come to those areas that we've put them on the map, that as long as they are providing these services, then I think we would definitely want that. But that is something we definitely can put in the resolution if need be.
I just think, I don't know.
Because like an Aldi grocery store is definitely smaller square footage than, a big Walmart or Target or anything.
Should qualify.
Yes, yeah, so.
And then sorry, Gilbert, were you going to say something? Yeah. Sorry. And then supermarket incentive, training programs for employees. I don't know about that one because I think they have to train their employees anyway for supermarkets. I mean, I was good for it on the industrial one. I think that, I get a lot of complaints about our frontage area and our entry to the community. And I wholeheartedly support the public infrastructure and the beautification and site improvements reimbursement. And since this is a beginning program, I would like to tighten the supermarket incentive up a little bit and maybe take out the training program for employees because they train their employees anyway. I'm good with it on the industrial one, but that's just my comment for
Okay,
supermarket.
yep, definitely.
Council, have you anything else for Mr. Chamberlain? Ma'am, did you want to have a comment for everyone to hear? I think the best way we can differentiate is if there's a shopping cart. If you have a shopping cart that goes into this place, it's a grocery store, not a handheld.
And I believe on the one, it says right there, as long as the supermarket is defined as food and beverages, I think more to your comment there is those are convenience stores, instead of supermarkets. So, but we can definitely kind of tighten that up like you've asked. Yep.
Woman?
So this is something they would have to apply for, correct?
Yes.
So at the time of application, if there was some question on whether or not they were going to qualify, the discussion could be had with them.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, because it is very specifically targeted to get grocery stores.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Cutter. Moving on, item 2E, FY 2023-24 CIP project update. Brandy's representing today.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council. I appreciate the opportunity to spotlight the CIP projects that Public Works is advancing for this fiscal year. So we currently have 25 capital improvement projects in our budget. I won't go over all 25, but we have taken the time to just give Some general information on a number of them. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions at the end for any of the ones mentioned in our presentation or any not that aren't listed. If I can spotlight probably the star, if you will, of our CIP program, the Glassford Hill SR 69 to Panther Path capital improvements for our corridor. Just a brief overview. It's a complete reconstruction of Glassford Hill Road in both the north and southbound direction from the 69 highway to Panther Path, Main Street / Main Street. We are currently under construction and Asphalt Paving and Supply, our contractor, is taking on an excavation of approximately 2 feet of existing roadway material. And the feedback that we've gotten is that they're making good progress. We have had some unsuitable material just because of the type of soils that we have here in Prescott Valley, but we are managing those and continuing on. We're currently on the outer lane between Veterans Way and we've actually extended our phase limit during this current phase to extend all the way to the north on Panther Path. And the reason we're kind of combining 2 phases is in an effort to complete the project ahead of schedule. Our timeline for this project is the end of this year, December of 2023. And we're hoping with our efforts, we're in advance of that. Just to give you an idea of how APNS, Asphalt Paving and Supply, is doing. They started this current double phase excavating on Thursday of last week, and we are currently at subgrade as of today, and we'll be importing our aggregate base course starting tomorrow. So in a short amount of time, they've taken on a huge chunk of the northbound section, and they're moving right along. Our unsuitable materials that we encountered early on have lessened, so we're not having to fight that, which is a great time saver. As always, our project hotline is established. That number there is a little outdated. To date, I believe we have had approximately 10 calls about the project specifically. A lot of folks are using the hotline to try to obtain information on other projects. And those calls are being redirected to the appropriate department. But we've had approximately 10 calls, project related, and to be honest, they're general inquiries. Is the access to a certain location restricted? What's the alternative route? And our outreach team, in my opinion, is doing a fantastic job of relaying where we're at with the project, what our timeline is with the project, and getting those residents answers to their questions.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, just want to highlight something that I think is really important. The Public Works team on this project, because of the impact to the community, specifically wanted to make sure that we did extensive outreach and communication with all of the business community. So we contracted with an external person who is specifically really making sure that they're aware of the phasing, intersection blockages, rerouting, any of those particular types of issues. And they're also feeding information into our communication system, and we're getting that out to the public. And then in addition, they did a great job of, again, because of the volume of traffic, we approach nearly 30,000 cars a day on this road. They brought in an external traffic management company, and they've done a phenomenal job with all the barricades, signage, as lanes get moved from one side to the other. And the team should be credited for what you've done on this. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's a great point. Traffic control is an unsung portion of any project. It's the most important part of the project, in my opinion, as far as keeping a work zone, number one, safe, but accessible for the traveling public, for the contractor doing the work. And right now, with the team getting the message out that we're shifting work zones and moving to other areas of the project, along with the traffic management making their recommendations, because traffic control is almost alive and breathing, if you will. You have to be able to make adjustments, and I think we have a team in place that can respond quickly to inquiries, to changing conditions, and get the necessary devices in place. One of the things that we've heard back from the contractors, these concrete barriers are great. They feel safe. The traveling public is not necessarily a concern because there is that separation. So I appreciate that comment. But with that project taking up a big portion of our CIP project, it's not the only one. If I could, I'd also like to highlight the Viewpoint Connector Long Look to Manley Drive project, which is currently underway. Earth Resources Corporation is currently constructing the northern portion of that project, and that's Spouse to Manley. We are on track to complete that project at the end of October. Right now, we have the subgrade for the future southbound lanes to grade. We will begin importing our base material early part of next week. And again, this is a huge project. Our streets department would have to respond to work orders, to patch, and just maintain a road that, the volumes, the new volumes on Viewpoint Drive couldn't sustain. So with this project, we are alleviating that need by providing a good asphalt base asphalt and base material, a structural section. Another item that I'd like to highlight is the connectivity. We're providing a asphalt multi-use path, which is huge with our transition and focus on multimodal forms of transportation. This is just another connection. A few years ago, we completed the sidewalk along Long Look, and this will connect Long Look to Manley. As we continue to grow, we definitely need to continue to grow that aspect of the right-of-way. The last project that I'd like to highlight is the Robert Road project. The term is considered a road diet. Currently have 4 lanes without any bike lanes or anything like that. We are going to resurface Robert Road and restripe it so that there is 1 lane in each direction, north and southbound, with a shared 2-way left turn lane. On the outside, along the curb and gutter, there will be bike lanes. And again, it's just this project is needed to continue that multimodal transportation aspect that we are trying to increase. We are currently in design. We are working with our partners at ADOT. We have a meeting this week just to make sure that we're all on the same page and we're not bumping heads, so to speak. So we're really trying to build that relationship and get their feedback and their input. So we'll hear what they have to say and get that incorporated into the project. And by summer of next year, 2024, we should have a newly striped and completed Robert Road project with bicyclists, walkers, left turn lanes at the intersections and left turn lanes for, the businesses and the various homes. So it's a great project overall. With that, I will wrap up and can take any questions on those three projects or any of the ones that are listed or any of the ones that we haven't listed.
So the Robert Road project, it would be similar to Sunset, would you say? How it is one lane in both directions with a middle turn?
Yes, very similar to Sunset. One lane in each direction. It will be a two-way left turn lane all along. And I'm sorry, I failed to mention those limits. It's the limits for the Robert Road project would be SR 69 to the north, which would terminate at Tranquil. Basically the curb and gutter limits of Robert Road.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor, did you have something? Councilwoman.
I just want to clarify on the reasoning behind the restriping of Robert Road. Obviously, as you went into, we're doing so much to improve and enhance Glassford Hill Road and Viewpoint because those are the main north-south connectors. And the idea behind Robert Road is that that is for specifically getting to those businesses and those neighborhoods and not making your way north and south in Prescott Valley. And so by doing this, the idea is to alleviate traffic on Robert Road, make it safer for pedestrians and bicyclists, people who ride bikes, and then get that north-south traffic on Glassford Hill Road and Viewpoint.
Yes, ma'am. One of the major benefits of a road diet is the safety improvement. There's a reduction in rear-end collisions just because there's a dedicated turn movement. With the bike lanes that are restriped, those bicyclists have a sense of safety because they are separated from the main travel lanes. It also improves visibility at crosswalks and key locations. With this project, we have a high visibility crosswalk at Robert Road and Nace, basically the entrance of Mountain Valley Park. A huge attraction, and we are going to highlight that with additional striping. We're putting in a high visibility crosswalk. One of our other CIP projects are the flashing beacons, similar to what we have on Lakeshore and Lake Valley, so that pedestrians can come to the intersection, stop, push the button, and the beacons alert traffic that someone is in that area so that they can cross. So great point. This project will enhance safety to a huge degree. Thank you.
Councilwoman.
Thank you for your presentation. So the existing lights that we have will remain. Will there be any additional lights added to what we already have?
To clarify, do you mean the signals at the intersections?
Yes, yes.
So this project is a surface treatment and restripe. We won't have to add any additional lights. We may have to look at signal timing and things like that. But right now, the way we are set up, you can make a left, and that's not going to change.
So it's going to Tranquil. The signal right now at Luce and Robert is a real difficult left-hand turn there, waiting for traffic. And so you're going to be putting turning signals or the arrows rather at these signals or at these lights for these intersections?
It's certainly something that we can look at. But this project will stripe a dedicated left turn bay. It's approximately 120 feet in length, and then you have additional capacity to store more traffic in both directions. So I believe that condition where, because loose, it comes into the alignment is sort of an S, if you will. And I've been at that intersection and I've been at that intersection and have had concerns. But with this, the striping of a dedicated turn pocket, a turn bay, I think that concern would be alleviated. But we could certainly look at a dedicated left arrow.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember, yes, we will be looking at those intersections for opportunities for improved turning movements. And so that would require an additional analysis by an outside traffic engineer. So, but that we'll do the road first, and then we'll come back in and start looking at each of those intersections where we could either have dedicated left turn signals.
That was going to be my next question. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next up, item 2F, bulk water sale policy. Mr. Wadsworth, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. This afternoon, we're talking about bulk water sales, and this is a continuation of previous discussions that we've had with you related to water. And we came to you previously and said we were going to be coming to you with multiple policies. As part of the background for this, just setting the stage for this. So water stewardship is one of Prescott Valley's key strategic plan items. And so that's why we're looking at this. Water is also mentioned in the general plan, water conservation, it's all kind of interrelated. The fifth management plan also, continues with the state and its efforts to conserve water, meet the goals of safe yield. And so going down that road, and on April 6th is when we came to you and said, hey, we're going to be looking at our water policies. We're going to be looking at conservation. We're going to be looking at whatever we can do. We're not going to leave any stone unturned. And so this is probably the first of the water policies that we're really looking into. And when we talked to you back in April, we talked about a number of things potentially being what we might be able to do, such as limiting limiting the bulk sales for different types of users, where we could limit it to, standpipes, and some of those types of things. We even talked about maybe being able to use reclaimed water. And I'm going to get into a little bit about what we actually, the direction we're actually kind of going with this thing. But this is what we talked to you about back in April. And so, you might ask, well, why are we looking at now the bulk sales? And a key component of that is limiting hydrant meters. I provided a picture of a hydrant meter. I'm sure most of you have seen these around. You know what they are. And it's a location where, somebody can pull up. They have a meter that they have signed up for an account, and they can hook like a fire hydrant hose up to it to fill a truck, or they can pipe from this location to another location to get the water to move it down the road a bit, especially like if you're doing a large subdivision. And so, but why are we looking at these? And so in general, with hydrant meters, they're hard to monitor and track water usage. At this point in time, we know who signed up for the meter, but that's about all we know. We don't know exactly what they're doing with the water. Every time one of our hydrants up here is opened or closed, we're losing 10 to 15 gallons. And that's because hydrants are designed to not freeze. You don't want them freezing and breaking in the middle of wintertime. And so when they're shut, there are some weep holes open at the bottom that allow the hydrant to drain out. And it's not just the portion that you see above ground. It also extends down into the ground. And so when you're opening it, those holes are open until you get the hydrant fully opened. Those holes then get covered and it allows the hydrant to be fully charged without leaking. But if a hydrant is partially open or partially closed, you are actually losing water out of the bottom of the hydrant, but you can't see it. So every time you open or close, you're losing water. For these types of meters, we are not collecting capacity fees that other meter users, permit meter users have to pay. And those help to pay for upgrades to our water system to provide that capacity. And then in addition, there are higher maintenance costs because we have all these meters out there and all these hydrants that get used very frequently, and they do have to be repaired from time to time, and those, you know, there's a cost associated with that. We currently have around 80 meters out there on different hydrants as depicted by the yellow dots on this map. The red dots are the other hydrants that we have in town that do not have meters on them, but you can see for the most part, these are in areas where we have construction going on, or you know, whether it's a subdivision, industrial areas, or it's in a commercial area and it's a convenient location for somebody to come and get water from. So there are various uses, and I'll get into that in a minute, but these are the approximate location where hydrant meters are currently located. So looking at what the meters are used for, I've got this up here by not only number of meters, but also by percentage of water use. So you can see the majority of these, 53 of them approximately, are used for construction, 6 potentially for landscaping. There are water delivery services that have some pesticide applications. The town has a number of meters for different things that we're doing, street sweeping. Jacobs has a couple of them that they use on our behalf. But you know, Public Works has them for filling up their water trucks. So we've got to account for all that water, and so we have a number of those. And then you can see that the greatest percentage usage is by construction at 73%. The second most is the residential water deliveries at 21%, and then the others are, you know, fall down from there. Let me back up a little bit. So over on the side, I didn't point that out. During the previous fiscal year, total water provided through hydrant meters is about 34 million gallons. It's about 1.7% of our total water sales. Didn't know I had that power. Okay. And so when we started looking into this, you know, we were looking, okay, well, how are we going to change our policy? What do we need to do? And what we realized was that our policy was quite a bit different from the majority of other municipalities around the state of Arizona and in other places that I checked. And most communities do not allow the use of hydrant meters for anything other than temporary construction. Some of them allow other uses, such as for landscaping, possibly for pest control, and dust control could qualify maybe as a temporary construction purpose anyways. Some of them specifically exclude using it for domestic residential consumption, and also specifically exclude it for transportation outside of the municipality. Flagstaff, in fact, doesn't allow the use of them at all, and the only thing that they will put a hydrant meter out there for is for fighting fires and special events. So, did I miss something? Okay. So the ordinance that you have, the proposed ordinance that you have in front of you, in summary, basically will allow only the use of hydrant meters for temporary construction purposes. We may need to define exactly what is temporary construction in either the temporary or in what constitute construction, whether you want to include things like, for example, some of the meters that are being used for landscaping are being used by the developer of the subdivision, like for Jasper, but they needed one dedicated for putting in a lot of the landscaping that they're doing to get the trees matured and such. before some of the water systems were actually built in those areas. And so that's part of landscaping, or it could be part of temporary construction, depending on how it gets defined. But the ordinance proposes temporary construction as being the only acceptable use, with the caveat that, you know, it could be used for special events by the town and by town forces or town contractors for things that we're doing or that we need it for. We thought that it might be good to put an implementation period in here because we have a lot of existing users out there that it would affect. So we were looking at or suggesting a 3-year period during which time those users could find other sources or put in a permanent meter at a location that they can use either on their property or, you know, something like that. It also, that 3-year period also allows us time to put a standpipe in somewhere that we could provide water at one location that would help so that anybody that doesn't have another alternative could go to that standpipe, you know, pay for, you know, I don't know if you use a credit card type of a system where they can put a card in or something along those lines and fill up a tank. So that would allow us time to do that and to find a location, engineer it, you know, get it installed. And then the other thing is that because we're trying to, you know, move forward with the temporary construction uses only, this would put a condition in there that would discontinue existing counts after 60 days of non-usage. So if somebody doesn't use the hydrant meter in a 60-day period, we would pull that hydrant meter, we would close that account. If somebody then wanted to come back in and get another hydrant meter, they could, but they can only use it for the temporary construction purposes. So that's the way the ordinance is currently laid out. We do have some next steps that we are proposing to do. One is we need to get input from, well, not only your input, we need to get input from people that we're going to be impacting, our current customers that have the hydrant meters, from YCCA, and I believe Sandy Griffiths is in the audience, and she may have some comments or two for you. And so we need some time to do that, and then see what those comments are, maybe revise the ordinance if needed before we would come back to you with a final on that. I don't know, Ivan, if you had anything that you need to add, or, okay, so I guess I covered the legal part of it good enough there. And so if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Vice Mayor?
So, Neil, thank you. So if we do some water fill stations, first of all, do we have any locations yet?
We do not.
So, do we have any thoughts on how much that would cost or on a location, or have we done any estimates?
We do not, and it would depend on whether we have existing property that we could use that would be appropriate for that. It would have to be in a, you know, not only an appropriate location, but near a large enough water line that could supply it. Whether there was power near that location would impact the cost as well. I know City of Prescott actually just updated one of their stations, and just for the box itself, the magic box that you put your money in and the water comes out, is about $50,000 just for that. If we don't have property, well, let's assume we do have property. We're probably looking at, I'm going to throw a number out there, $300,000. You know, you're looking at potentially having to fence the site, maybe do paving or something. I believe our ordinance would require us to pave the site. We have to get the water onto the site and have the controls and everything that we need and get the power to the site. So maybe $300,000. If we had to acquire property, then yeah, I don't know. It could go up from there.
So then back to that slide where you had temporary construction, dust control, landscaping. So then if we become a jurisdiction like Glendale or Prescott or Phoenix, where it only allows it for temporary construction, but then we have our own water fill stations, these other uses like dust control, landscaping, and pest control could still happen, but they'd have to get their water from a fill station, right?
Correct.
Okay. That's my question. Thank you.
Councilwoman?
I don't know if this is a question or not. Does the water company that serves Diamond Valley, do they currently get their water from Prescott Valley?
Yes, Diamond Valley gets their water from us.
Do they have a water meter? Like, is that what they're using right now?
Yes, there's permanent water meters that we serve Diamond Valley through.
So would they be they be one of the ones that's in the 3-year
No, this does not affect water deliveries to Diamond Valley or any other large customer. This is only for the hydrant meter type application.
Okay. And then I think that's all. Thanks.
Councilwoman?
Hi, Neil. Thank you for your presentation. So how many, do we have a number for the number of these hydrants that have not been used for 60 days? I mean, is there an existing number right now from that map that you showed?
No, we have not looked at that. We know that from time to time they sit vacant. In fact, we've had meters that have been sitting on account for businesses for years, and you know, sometimes they use them and sometimes they don't. But that does put that means that we've got a meter sitting out there that's not doing anything, and it's, you know, at some point in time it's going to need to be repaired. But in terms of looking at the usage of the customer and whether we have a bunch of them out there that don't get used for a period of time, I do not have that information. That could be something that we could look into as part of this, you know, more due diligent period, if you would like for us to do that, and we could see, you know, what those users are currently doing.
That would be interesting to see, yeah, if it's not a lot of trouble. Obviously, it's some trouble, but it would be an interesting fact to know. Also,
Mr. Mayor and council member, if I
Yeah.
could just say, the 2 months wouldn't apply until after the ordinance had been adopted.
Oh, okay.
So anybody that hasn't used it for 2 months before adoption of the ordinance, you would start that clock over.
Okay,
And that's what would be done.
okay. All right, well, so, one other question. Once the hydrant is removed, how do they cap them off? What would happen there?
The hydrant is not removed, it's just the meter that is removed. So on this picture, so the meter is actually the hydrant, you see the hydrant there, the thing just to the right of it is the meter. And then there's a funny looking device next to that, it's all brass. That's actually a backflow device. So the meter is kind of that silver looking thing in the middle, and that's what we go out and we set it, and we connect it to the hydrant, and we, you know, for the customer, and those are what we're talking about. So the meters would go away, and you would just see a hydrant there, just like you see hydrants all over town. We can move these meters currently to any hydrant we want, but typically we try to keep them in areas that are not going to impact our residential customers. So then we try to get them as close to where the customer would like to use the water as we can. But we do have the ability to put them on any hydrant in town. So the hydrant would remain, but we would be removing the meters from those.
Thank you.
Anything else for Mr. Wadsworth? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on to our final item, 2G, Sister City application. We will have a welcome for the first time to the podium, Mr. McKay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. I'm here today to talk to you guys about the Sister Cities program and potential relationships that the town of Prescott Valley could develop. And I have the clicker. So Sister Cities is a formal partnership between two communities, typically located in different countries, aimed at fostering friendship, cultural exchange, and economic cooperation. And the purpose is to promote a mutual understanding and goodwill between different communities in different countries. Some of those key elements are exchange programs, friendship and collaboration, and economic ties. And what that looks like can vary from relationship to relationship. In the United States, there are over 700 cities dedicated to bridging the cultural gap of their international counterparts. So Phoenix has 11 sister cities, Prescott has 3, Tucson with 6, and then Flagstaff has 4. So a sister city relationship is not limited to just one per municipality. It can be multiple, up to an infinite amount of sister cities. And Chicago has around 30. So where does Prescott Valley stand in all of this? We do not currently have a sister city relationship with any other jurisdiction or town or city in any other country. Recently, the Consul General of Mexico, based out of Phoenix, they reached out to us and they were seeking to establish partnerships between Arizona municipalities with towns and or cities within the state of Sonora, Mexico. And for reference, Sonora, Mexico is a state similar to Arizona would be in the United States that borders our southern border in Arizona. And we've been talking to them for the past week or so, and they told us that highly demanded cities tend to be scooped up swiftly by other municipalities. And so if they were to offer a potential city or option that we could develop a relationship, we would want to move quickly and make sure that we're on top of this project. So outside of individual consulate interactions, there is also an international organization that facilitates sister city relationships, and you may or may not be familiar with them. They are called Sister Cities International. So this organization is its own entity that develops and maintains some of these relationships. They have access, as you can see in the chart on the top right, they have over 500 members, 1,800 plus partnerships, and they're established in 140 plus countries. So they were actually established at President Eisenhower's request in 1956. And this was to form relationships between different countries and to mitigate potential conflict. And at that time, when that was a very big concern, and it still is. So upon becoming a member of this organization, Prescott Valley would have access to their network and resources such as grants, sister city affiliations and their database, trainings, international networking, and much, much more. Essentially, we would be joining a network where we could have access to any of these cities that are also interested in sister city relationships, and we would either approach them or they would approach us about forming a sister city relationship. So in forging the sister city agreement, Prescott Valley opens the door to a world of opportunities. These partnerships enrich our community and allow us to exchange culture, education, best practices. We can exchange humanitarian assistance, health strategies, and economic ties. And by fostering these friendships and deepening international understanding, we demonstrate our commitment to embracing diversity and global engagement. Prescott Valley essentially would take part in international diplomacy and international relations, which I think would be something really cool for us to engage in. So I'm here today just to inform you about what this organization does and other options, and seek if this is something that the town of Prescott Valley wants to continue exploring and investigating our options in this aspect. So thank you.
First off, great job. Great presentation. I think at this point for the town, it doesn't matter if we go through the consular or through SCI, just we want to make sure that we find the right city that fits with Prescott Valley. So I think moving forward, we should have staff just do some more research and finding what's the perfect fit for our community, because we just don't want to be kind of painted into a corner with what's available through the consular or vice versa, what's available through SCI. That's just my thoughts. I think it's a very important relationship, and it can benefit Prescott Valley in the future. Anyone else on council?
Yes, recently, well, within the last 3-4 months, at the fentanyl work study group, we had a presentation made to us showing how much the cartels have taken over border cities and various other cities and their impact. And my concern would be the timing of getting involved because of our border situation right now. Also, safety concerns with, I know that we you know, a lot of, including here on the council members, you know, have traveled down there for vacation, but there have been incidents of security and safety. And I would like to make sure that whatever and whoever we get involved with, that, and I'm sure that this will probably be at the top of the list as far as safety and those concerns. But I just wanted to raise that as a, you know, point of conversation. Thank you.
I appreciate your comment, and that is definitely something that is always going to be looked at when we're developing these relationships. And the good thing is, if we were to become a member of an organization like Sister Cities International, we would have access to their 140 plus countries that are involved, and that really broadens our choices, and it allows us to find, like Mr. Mayor was saying, the perfect fit for Prescott Valley. And so yeah, I hope that helps.
And Mr. Mayor, just to give reference, Prescott has one in Mexico, Caborca, Mexico, and then they have one in Germany, and then another in, I believe, El Salvador. So they've kind of branched out all over. And as Mr. McKay indicated, I mean, there's, you know, as we look at the Sister City International program, there may be a wide array of different countries that we could bring forward and consider.
So with that being said, we'll just look forward to staff coming back to us with more detailed information. Thank you, Mr. McKay. And with that being said, thanks for sticking around, everyone. Drive safe.